Okay, so now we're in the section on social media and how this is going to affect your job search, some of the things that you can do to take advantage of different platforms, and just some general pointers, especially on how we're going to use LinkedIn to help to make you more attractive to hiring managers, easier to find, and help you get that job faster. So before we get into LinkedIn, let's cover all of the other platforms. Now, the general guideline we're going to look at here is that LinkedIn is the professional networking platform. Tons of people on there are recruiters. People are looking for job candidates on there all the time. And so that's where we're going to really focus our professional presence. When we talk about the other platforms, like say your Instagram, your Facebook, your Twitter, there might be a couple other ones that you're on as well. With those, it's not necessarily that we're going to use this to heavily promote yourself as a job seeker. In fact, we're not going to get into that really much at all. But what I want to make sure you do is not hurt your chances of getting a job by your presence on those platforms. So let me give you a couple general guidelines to follow, and I think this alone will probably be enough to get you through everything but LinkedIn. Know that people are looking you up. Hiring managers aren't stupid. They know that they want to get a full picture of someone, and so they look into all of the online presence. Because someone might maximize that LinkedIn profile knowing that that's where the hiring manager is going to look, and that looks amazing. But then on the Facebook, then they have pictures of them being sloppy, them partying in ways that are very irresponsible, or just doing other things that are going to throw up these big red flags for anyone looking at you as a potential employee. And so we want to make sure that we eliminate all of that, even anything that's going to be kind of questionable or just look kind of funny or come off strange. So look over your social media profiles. Make sure you don't have anything where there's these comments like, "Oh, Frank, you were partying so hard last night," or things like this, stuff that's going to show that you might not be a super responsible individual. I mean, not that we don't want to have social lives, but we don't necessarily need to expose our entire social life to the people who might be thinking about hiring us. So we're going to be very selective. Look through your pictures. Look through the photos that you're tagged on. Look through the comments on your profile. I'm especially thinking about Facebook here because people might be tagging you in pictures and might be putting up comments about you or posting to your feed. And you want to make sure that there's nothing on there that's going to make you look less than professional. Now, of course, people expect to see you spending time with your family, spending time with your friends, out on that trip that you took or the vacation. All of that's totally fine. Just if there's anything that you're doing that makes you look just irresponsible or not hire worthy, get rid of all that. Even things that are a little funny. Like I remember I would be hiring for people and then I look at their Facebook and there's some picture where it might just be them in some awkward photo with, out certain pieces of clothing on or something like that. And that really was a big red flag. So watch out for that stuff. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Just comb through all your profiles, clean them up, delete anything that you wouldn't want someone to see. And then after you're hired, maybe you can relax your stringency about that a little bit. Let's get into LinkedIn now because I think that's where we should spend most of our time. So LinkedIn is a hiring platform for many people. Upwards of 20% of the people on LinkedIn are recruiters. So you know that they're always combing through profiles. It's one of the first places people go when they're trying to source new candidates for a job. And it's definitely a place that hiring managers go. It's also a place that you can look for information on a hiring manager and find ways to reach out to them and connect to them. So let's talk a little bit about the different things you can do with your profile. First, know that there's certain industries that use LinkedIn more than others. If we think of anything that would be white collar, we're thinking about any accountants and lawyers and people in management positions and these more high-level professional positions. Almost across the board, you are expected to have a good LinkedIn profile for these. And then there's other industries, like say you're in light industrial, you're a production assistant, you're a punch press operator, you're a CNC machinist. Those people aren't using LinkedIn as much. And there's two ways you could look at this. One, you could say, oh, I don't need it. I'm a CNC machinist. People don't look for me on LinkedIn, so I'm not going to do it. Or you might say, hey, almost no one is actually putting up a quality, filled out, complete profile on LinkedIn for the type of job that I have. So I'm going to make sure I do that. I'm going to totally stand out from my competition. And you can really use that to your advantage. So I think everyone should have a solid profile up there. Let's talk about what goes into that. All right, so the first thing that people are going to see is they're going to see your headline. And some people don't really use the headline, and it's a shame because this is the first piece of real estate that shows up in your profile, even if someone just does a search on various key terms, like accountant, Chicago, or something like that. It's just going to pull up your picture, it's going to pull up your name, and it's going to pull up your headline. And so that headline is going to be what's going to describe what you do. Now, you might end up putting something there that's very bland, like production supervisor. But that doesn't really give any character. It doesn't give any real depth to what you do. So you can take that piece of real estate and really obsess about it and make sure you put something there that's very high quality. Like instead of being production supervisor, it could be lean manufacturing expert, production supervisor for such and such industry, and you could put in a couple things that, much like in the resume descriptions we were talking about, using more bold, robust, colorful, provocative language. I won't say provocative, but something that is going to be more engaging language. And so use that piece of real estate. Now, the other thing that people are going to see is they're going to see your profile picture. And if that profile picture is bad, then there's potential for that to eclipse everything else that looks good on your profile. A lot of people make kind of similar mistakes with this. And so I'll tell you a couple of the mistakes that I see. One is that people will do photos that aren't professional photos. It might be something where I'll see like prom photos or a picture of you at someone's wedding. And maybe that's because that's the only picture you have where you were dressed up in more formal attire. And so you might be putting that on there thinking, I'm making myself look very high profile, professional, formal. But in fact, it actually doesn't come off that well. If you want to come off like that, then you want to take maybe those same clothes or maybe a different set of professional clothing and have someone shoot an intentional shot that is specifically for LinkedIn. You don't want to just recycle a photo from somewhere else you had where you were having a good night or it looked good. Also, a lot of people will do something where, say they were at some kind of occasion and they were posing with their significant other or with a friend, and then they'll try to crop out that person, even if they had their arm around them or something. That looks weird. You don't want to have that as your profile photo. You want something that's just you, just representing you. Don't use these recycled images. Another thing is people will just try to snap a cell phone picture. Or they'll do the thing like in their bathroom mirror where they're taking a picture of themselves. All these things look incredibly unprofessional. Now, there are some cell phones at this point where the camera is good enough that you could get away with doing a cell phone pic for your LinkedIn profile. But if there's any way for you to get an actual professional camera taking that picture of you, hopefully by a friend or a family member or an acquaintance who knows how to take pictures and do the lighting so it looks good and all of that, then that's going to be what you want to go with. And I know I spent a lot of time on this, but I've seen so many mistakes with this. Don't use your yearbook photo. Don't use your prom photo. Get a picture that's just for LinkedIn to make you look great. Okay, and another quick point about this initial thing that people are seeing. With your name, don't do all caps. Don't do all lowercase. Just spell your name normal with capital letters at the start of your first name and your last name. And then you can put any of your credentialing after that if you have it. PhD, RN, whatever it is that you might have. Okay, so let's move on a little bit from there. Now, when we think about the content of your LinkedIn profile, a lot of this is going to be the same stuff that was on your resume. All the things we talked about with keywords, with a professional but simple and flowing writing style, all of that is exactly the same for your LinkedIn profile. So if you skipped those videos in the resume section, go back and look at them now. They're all going to be very important. I'll reference them now, but there's a lot more information in those previous videos. So you can take a lot of those same bullet points where we're very action-oriented. Remember when we went through that description, the description of the job duties and accomplishments on that one resume. You want to take that same type of thing and make that part of your LinkedIn. You also have a section where you can put an objective at the start, where it's kind of this summary at the top of your profile. Definitely utilize that and put something similar to how we were talking about the objective. You won't be able to tailor it to each job that you're looking for or each unique position. However, you can put something there that's going to be kind of the catch-all that still highlights your positive experience, the bulk of what you focused your career on and where you're going and how you see yourself, kind of your professional ambitions. All of that can be there. So we're going to have that. Then we're going through the content, which is going to be very similar to what's on your resume. If you can actually have the professional icon next to each company, then that always looks good. Because if you have a company, most likely they'll have their logo uploaded on LinkedIn, and that should auto-populate when you start to put in your description. So make sure that that's there if it's an option. So let's talk about using keywords. So this is going to be very similar to the resume stuff, so I'm not going to dig too deep. But if you think about recruiters looking for you or hiring managers looking for you on your LinkedIn profile, the way that the LinkedIn search system works is it's very much that they can put in a job title. They can put in keywords, things like CPA, accountant, JavaScript, different things like that. They can put in locations and things like that. This is how they're doing their searches to narrow down who they're looking for. So all of those keywords that we talked about and the keyword variations, you want to make sure you have those all throughout your LinkedIn profile. Because then the LinkedIn search engine is going to be pulling all of those to decide who am I going to show to this person. And also LinkedIn does rank people who look more highly matched to the specific criteria at the top of the search feed. So the more of that you have, the more likely you're going to be to show up for this. A couple other things you can look at when you're trying to build up your profile is you can get endorsements. And you can actually request these directly from people who have been coworkers, managers, even subordinates in previous positions. You can go to their profile on LinkedIn, and there's actually a place where you can click on a drop-down menu and you can request an endorsement from them. You could also give an endorsement to people. So there might be a little bit of give one, get one that you can get with some people. Like especially if you're both managers at a similar company, you might be able to kind of trade endorsements or, trade recommendations. The recommendations are where it's actually typed out and it's usually be more like a few sentences about how great this person was to work with or how professional or the skills they had. And then the other piece, which is the endorsements, are where it'll be a specific skill like JavaScript, management, leadership, things like that, where someone will endorse you for that. And then you'll just see it'll say like management skills plus 58, meaning 58 people endorsed you for that skill. So if you have people who you know you can ask for endorsements from, that's another way to build up your profile. And then when someone's looking through it, it'll kind of highlight the things that you're very good at. And endorsements are another good place to give and get. Because if you endorse people, then often they'll endorse you back for the skills they know that you're good at. And that really helps a hiring manager or recruiter to know where you really excel and where you have your skills. So there's a couple other things that you can do here. Let's talk about something that a lot of people never put in the time to do. And because of this, it can really make a difference in how you appear and how it shows that you are dedicated to really making yourself look as professional as possible, is to create content. Now, it's easy enough to be posting things in your activity in the news feed. So you could be posting things about accomplishments that you've had or things that have happened at your companies, big projects, stuff like that, or various tips. Those are kind of good to do. You can also write articles where if you want to establish yourself as an authority on a subject, then say that you are a production supervisor, maybe there's a specific way that you make things more efficient, or that you use lean manufacturing in a unique way, or that you get your workforce behind you so that they're really doing everything that you want them to do in the best way possible. Any of these things that you believe you can contribute to and have some insight about, actually go and write an article about these. And in your profile, these articles will show up. It'll show up the date that you did them as well. So if you're doing these at least semi-regularly, like even say monthly, which isn't that much extra work to do one of these monthly, then it'll look like you're constantly contributing information and insights into this topic, which establishes you as an authority, as a subject matter expert, which is something people are going to want to see. Plus, of course, in that article, there's going to be chances to show off things that you've done, to show off your personality, your writing style, your professionalism, your character, all of those good things. And then obviously you can be engaging with other people's content as well. Don't waste time on this. Don't go around liking everyone's post and things like that and commenting on everyone's post for no good reason. But if there's a company that you want to start to engage with, or an individual you want to start to engage with, and you are following them, there's nothing wrong with liking some of their posts or trying to put an insightful value add comment into that. So these are definitely things that you can do to start actually building that social engagement with companies and specific people that you want to be involved with. So that's something that you could be putting your time into. There's a couple other unique features that LinkedIn has. One is that you can join different groups. And so whatever you're interested in or whatever your professional leanings are, there's probably groups of people who are in a similar position or are looking for information on similar subjects. And so you can search for LinkedIn groups and you can look for something that's applicable to the industry that you're in. And it could be things like human resources or management or lean manufacturing or collections or whatever it is that you might be doing. And then if you join these groups and you become a regular contributor and you're commenting on other people's content, then you're getting some engagement there and you're getting some visibility. People are becoming aware of you. And then you might find that someone comments on your content and they're someone that you really want to be connected with. Maybe they're in a position where they might be able to move you to that next job, or maybe they're just going to be someone who's going to be good to know in the future, or that you'll be able to get an endorsement from or a recommendation from, something like that. So definitely you can use those groups to engage with people. And another thing is that when people are looking through your LinkedIn profile, these are all conversation points. So if they see that you're engaged in some group and then they're engaged in the same group, it gives them a talking point. Now, these aren't things that you're necessarily going to want to introduce to a conversation, but you're giving it to them if they want to introduce it. The last couple things that I'll say, I guess I'll just talk about connecting with other people. Because this is, even though it's the most professional of the platforms, it still is social media. And the whole thing about social media is engaging with people directly, connecting with them, building your network. And so one of the things that you can be doing is you can be sending these connection requests to other individuals. And I'm sure most of us have done that. Now, one of the things that most people don't do is actually personalize that connection request. A lot of people will just hit, connect or send invite. And then it just shoots out a generic invite to whoever a person is. But if you actually personalize it, you stand out from 98% of a crowd there, because most people aren't going to personalize those messages. And the ones who do personalize those invitations, those connection requests, those people are usually spammers. And so if you're someone who just has a genuine message that you're giving to someone about how you want to connect, how you noticed something that they posted, something they had in their activity, some group that they're a part of, then that really sets you apart, because almost no one is actually doing that. So it makes you look very professional and very personable, and they might just write back, and then that could be the start of a conversation. You don't want to get lost in social media. To wrap up, I want to say you don't want to spend all of your time on this. But the biggest things you want to have as takeaways here are, for most of the platforms, clean them up. And for LinkedIn, make it look as thorough, professional as possible. Establish yourself as an authority, connect with other people, and this can do a lot to connect you into possible channels that are going to lead to that next job very, very quickly.